Bright QT. Every student matters.
So with this, my dear students, we come to the end of this unit. Let us discuss the back exercises now. So now the first question is expand the following terms. Now this is not TLM, but this is LTM, which is long-term memory, and STM is the short-term memory. What do we understand by recall? Recall means to remember something which has already taken place in the past. What is memory? Memory is the ability for one to recall and retain something in mind for a longer duration. What are the different stages of memory? So we have learnt about the 4 different stages of memory, namely registration or learning, retention, recall, and recognition. Then what is forgetting? The inability for you to remember something that already took place with you. What are the 2 causes of forgetting? We have discussed about the causes of forgetting also, namely, some inhibitions or faulty memory process, retrieval problems. So you have to state any 2 of them. How can forgetting be minimized? So what are the possible ways in which you can reduce the level of your forgetfulness? Or if I say, what are the possible ways in which you can improve your memory? So we have discussed about the ways of improving memory. You have to write about that. Discuss about the different types of memory with examples. We have sensory memory, short-term memory, long-term memory. We've discussed about them with examples. Okay. Sensory memory is something that came in front of you for a couple of seconds and then it just went away. For example, a movie ticket. You just saw at the seat number, and once you were seated, you forgot about it. Then was the short-term memory, let's say a phone number. You had to dial a phone number. It remained in your brain for 30 seconds. And after that, once it was dialed, you forgot about it. And long-term memory is something which remains with you for a longer duration because you have learnt that with a better understanding. What are the different components of memory? We have again discussed about the different components of the memory. We've talked about the rote memorization, about the spaced or the mass learning, about retention, recognition, recall, and so on and so forth. Enumerate with examples the different ways in the process of memorizing. So what are the ways in which you can memorize things properly? So how can you remember things properly? Again, we have learned about these processes by way of registration or learning, by way of registration can further be subdivided into rote memorization, spaced learning, whole learning, recitation, mnemonic devices, then retention, recall, and recognition. Difference between short-term and long-term memory. First, 2 differences are asked from you. Whenever you get 2 differences, the first one has to be the definition of both. So you will first tell about the short-term memory, which will remain in your brain for 30 seconds. And long-term memory, which has a longer duration in your brain. And the second definition or the second difference should always be an example to differentiate the 2. What are the causes of forgetting? We have discussed about the causes that lead to forgetting, the causes, faulty memory process, interference, retrieval problem, amnesia, motivated forgetting. These are the causes of forgetting. Differentiate between recall and recognition. So again, recall and recognition, we've learned about these 2 at length. It is very clearly stated in your book under the techniques of learning. You have recall, where we've discussed about how recalling means when something is retained in your mind and there is no experience which is attached to that. You just tend to look at it, and on the basis of the visuals you just recall that. While recognition means a lot of understanding, experiences are attached to it. Recognition can be deliberate. I may or may not want to recognize somebody based on my experiences with that person, while recall is something which is involuntary in nature, and I'd be able to recall whether I want it or not. The factors which affect your memory, we have discussed about them, given in your book at length. How can we improve our memory? The different ways in which we can minimize forgetting again. How can we improve our memory? And the causes related to forgetfulness. So the causes, again, we have learned about the causes that lead to forgetfulness. And with this, my dear students, we come to the end of this topic. I hope the topic was clear to you. I shall pause here now and will see you all now in my next lecture.